When Denzel Washington speaks, people listen. He's one of Hollywood's most respected actors, admired for his wisdom, humility, and unwavering faith. But what happens when that quiet strength collides with one of daytime television's sharpest legal minds, Sunny Hostin? What started as a thoughtful conversation on justice and faith spiraled into an intense clash that left the audience stunned and social media ablaze. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a battle of principles, power, and perspective. The set of The View was lively as usual, but there was a certain electricity in the air. Denzel Washington, calm and commanding, sat at the table, his signature warm smile greeting the audience. Sunny Hostin leaned forward with her notes. Denzel, you've often talked about discipline, faith, and personal responsibility. But don't you think that sometimes that narrative ignores systemic issues, things beyond people's control? Denzel smiled gently, tilting his head. I respect that point, Sunny, but I believe in focusing on what we can control. Life's never going to be fair. You have to find your way regardless. Sunny's eyebrows rose. But what about people who can't just find their way? Communities where opportunity simply doesn't exist. Doesn't your message risk sounding like victim blaming? The audience shifted, sensing something brewing. Denzel clasped his hands, leaning in. I don't believe in blaming anyone, Sunny. I believe in empowerment. You tell a young man he's a victim his whole life, he'll believe it. You tell him he's capable, he might just surprise you. Sunny's voice sharpened. That sounds nice, but it's overly simplistic. People don't fail because they're told they're victims. They fail because the deck is stacked against them. Denzel's name is calm gave way to intensity. And what's your solution? To keep telling people the system's against them so they give up before they even start? No, Sunny. I tell them what my mother told me. Do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. You don't wait for the world to hand you a fair shot. You take one. The audience erupted in applause, some standing. Sunny glanced at them, then back at Denzel, ready to double down.
Sunny Hostin straightened her posture, her voice rising just enough to signal she wasn't backing down. Denzel, I respect your success. I respect your story. But not everyone has your opportunities. Not everyone has the privilege to say, just work harder. That sounds dismissive to people who've tried and still find doors closed in their face. Denzel's eyes narrowed slightly, his trademark calm voice taking on a sharper edge. Sunny, with all due respect, privilege didn't raise me. Discipline did. Faith did. I came from a working-class family in Mount Vernon, and I had to make a choice. Do I focus on what I can't change, or do I focus on what I can? I'm not saying life's fair. I'm saying it's still yours. Sunny gestured toward the audience, her tone becoming impassioned. But when you tell people who've been ignored, underfunded, and pushed aside for generations to just work harder, you're ignoring reality. Sometimes the system is broken, and people need more than just motivation. They need justice, resources, and structural change. Denzel leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. I'm not ignoring reality, Sunny. I'm saying you don't let reality define you. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. People who make it despite the system do so because they refuse to let it stop them. That's what I teach. Sunny held her ground, her voice firm and measured. But Denzel, isn't there a danger in making people believe their failure is their fault when the system is what's holding them down? That mentality can keep people silent about the real changes we need. Denzel paused, his eyes locking onto Sunny's. And there's danger in teaching people they're powerless. I don't believe in hopelessness. I believe in responsibility, not because it's easy, but because it's the only way I know to rise above. The crowd erupted again, But this time it was mixed, some applauding Denzel's hard-earned wisdom, others nodding at Sunny's systemic critique. Whoopi Goldberg, sensing the rising tension, muttered into her mic, "This table's on fire today." Sunny leaned back, arms crossed, a faint smile on her lips. "Looks like we see the world differently, Denzel." Denzel nodded slightly. "That's okay, Sunny. Difference is good. But truth doesn't change." The air in the room tightened. Everyone knew this was about to boil over.
The air inside the studio was thick with tension. Even the camera crew seemed to freeze, instinctively sensing that what was about to happen would dominate headlines before the day was out. Sunny Hostin leaned in, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "Denzel, you're one of the most respected men in Hollywood, but don't you think your message, while inspiring, can be dangerous? Because it sounds like you're saying people who don't succeed simply didn't try hard enough. That's not reality. That's privilege talking." The crowd gasped. Denzel, normally a rock of calm, sat back and inhaled slowly, the fire now visible in his eyes. "Privilege," he repeated, softly, almost to himself, before leaning forward, his voice low and deliberate. "Sunny, let me tell you something. My father was a preacher. My mother was a beauty shop owner. We didn't have privilege. What we had was a kitchen table with bills stacked higher than our dinner plates, and two parents telling me, work hard and trust God. That's it. No connections, no safety net, just faith and discipline." He paused, his voice growing heavier. "You think it was easy for me? You think Hollywood was just waiting for a guy like me to show up? I faced rejection, racism, and more closed doors than I can count. And you know what? I still got up every morning, still fought, still made it. Not because someone handed me privilege, but because I refused to let circumstances define me." The studio erupted in applause, but Sunny wasn't finished. She raised her hand, trying to regain the floor. "I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter, Denzel. I'm saying that systemic barriers exist, and when someone in your position dismisses them, it can sound like you're blaming people for being crushed by systems they didn't create." Denzel leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "I'm not dismissing barriers, Sunny. I'm telling people, don't let those barriers own you. If you wait for the system to fix itself, you'll wait your whole life. You fight for what you can change, starting with yourself." The crowd leapt to its feet, cheering loudly. Some even chanted, "Denzel! Denzel!" Sunny shook her head, smiling tightly. "And what about the people who fight and still lose?" Denzel's voice softened, almost breaking. "Then you stand with them. You lift them up. But you don't tell them they're doomed from the start. You tell them they have a shot. Because hope is the one thing they can't take from us." The entire studio erupted in applause, but the look on Sunny's face said it all. She respected him, but she wasn't convinced. The conversation had gone from professional to deeply personal, and neither side was backing down. The second the cameras cut to commercial, the studio was still humming with raw, unsettled energy. Audience members whispered and pointed, some clapping for Denzel, others murmuring agreement with Sunny's points. What had just unfolded felt less like a TV segment and more like a collision of two worldviews on live television. Sunny Hostin leaned back in her chair, exhaling sharply. She wasn't rattled. She was a former prosecutor, used to heated debates. But she knew the emotional weight of what just happened. Denzel Washington wasn't just any guest. He was an icon, a man revered for his dignity both on and off screen. Challenging him publicly was bound to ruffle feathers. Denzel sat quietly, clasping his hands together, his face calm again, but his eyes still burning with conviction. After a pause, he turned to Sunny. "I appreciate your passion, Sunny," he said, softly but audibly enough for the audience to hear.
I just believe we rise higher when we take ownership, even in broken systems. Sunny nodded. And I appreciate your story, Denzel. I just don't want people to feel invisible when the system truly is against them. Whoopi Goldberg, trying to lighten the mood, quipped, "Whew, I feel like I just sat in the middle of a church sermon and a courtroom at the same time." The audience laughed nervously, finally breaking the tension. When the show wrapped, the discussion had already leaked online. Within minutes, #DenzelViaSunny was trending on Twitter, with split-screen clips of their heated exchange spreading like wildfire. One viral tweet read, "Denzel Washington just gave the most powerful speech about personal responsibility on live TV. This one is pure class. #DenzelViaSunny."
Another countered, "Sunny Hostin is right. You can't bootstrap your way out of systemic oppression. This debate was real, raw, and necessary. #Denzel versus Sunny." By evening, major outlets were running with headlines. Denzel Washington and Sunny Hostin clash on The View over personal responsibility versus systemic barriers. Fans divided after intense Denzel-Sunny debate shakes daytime TV. Even celebrities weighed in, some backing Denzel's message of empowerment, others praising Sunny for spotlighting inequality. The clip became one of the most viewed moments in The View's recent history, with millions watching and debating long after the cameras had turned off. Both Denzel and Sunny remained quiet online that night, but their silence only fueled speculation. What would they say next? Did the clash damage their relationship or make it stronger? One thing was clear. This wasn't just TV drama. It had become a cultural conversation.
When the bright studio lights dimmed and the set fell quiet, what lingered wasn't anger, it was respect. Denzel Washington stood from his chair and extended his hand toward Sunny Hostin. She looked up at him for a beat, then smiled and shook it. In that single moment, millions watching at home felt a sigh of relief. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about two strong individuals fighting for what they believed in. As Denzel left the stage, reporters were already camped outside, cameras flashing, asking for his thoughts on the viral clash. His response was simple, measured, and heartfelt. "I stand by what I said. Responsibility and hope are powerful tools, no matter how tough the world is. That's what my mother taught me." Sunny, moments later, issued her own response from her dressing room. "Debate is healthy. Denzel and I both care about people. We just see different paths forward. And that's okay." Clips of their handshake exploded on TikTok and Instagram, labeled "Real Respect in Real Time." It became one of the day's most shared moments, overshadowing even the debate itself. Comment sections flooded with fans praising the exchange for its civility. This is how adults handle disagreements. Powerful, emotional. We need more conversations like this.
By nightfall, Denzel versus Sunny had been viewed over 12 million times across platforms, sparking think pieces, reaction videos, and even classroom discussions about empowerment versus systemic barriers. What could have been just another fiery TV moment had transformed into something larger, a cultural mirror, forcing audiences to ask themselves, what do we owe ourselves, and what do we owe each other? In the end, both Denzel and Sunny walked away with their reputations intact, perhaps even stronger. They hadn't agreed, but they'd modeled something rare, disagreement with dignity. And in an era where viral moments often thrive on chaos, this one thrived on truth. The debate didn't settle the questions about fairness or personal responsibility, but it opened doors for dialogue across generations and communities. That's what made it unforgettable. If you love these powerful celebrity clashes, emotional debates, and moments that define television history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because trust me, the next clash,
It's coming and you won't want to miss it.